Hello, welcome back. This Week in History. I'm your host, Bradley Smith, and today we will be covering history topics from the days of April 27th through May 10th. Let's get into it. Starting off on April 27th. On April 27th, 1994, South Africa held its first multiracial democratic elections, signifying the official end of apartheid. Millions of citizens of all races queued for hours to cast their ballots, leading to Nelson Mandela becoming the nation's first black president. We now move on to April 28th. On April 28th, 1945, in the final days of World War II, Italian fascist dictator Benito Mussolini, or Il Duce, was captured and executed by Italian partisans while attempting to flee to Switzerland. His body was later taken to Milan and hung upside down in a public square. Very brutal. We now move on to April 29th. On April 29th, 1964, the first monorail in the Western Hemisphere intended for actual transit rather than just amusement opened at the Tokyo Olympic site. Though Japan's border rail innovations often highlight this date for engineering milestones. We now move on to April 30th. On April 30th, 1945, with Soviet forces just blocks away, Adolf Hitler committed suicide in his Führer bunker in Berlin. This effectively signaled the intimate total collapse of Nazi Germany, which surrendered unconditionally just over a week later. We now move on to May 1st. On May 1st, 1960, during the Cold War, the U.S. U-2 spy plane sent out by President Dwight D. Eisenhower, piloted by Francis Gary Powers, was shot down over the Soviet Union. The incident caused a major diplomatic crisis and collapsed a planned summit between Eisenhower and Nikita Khrushchev. We now move on to May 2nd. On May 2nd, 2011, in a high-stakes nighttime raid, Navy SEALs killed the al-Qaeda leader and mastermind of the September 11th attacks, Osama bin Laden, at his compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan. That night he would be taken over the Black Sea and dumped into the sea. We now move on to May 3rd. On May 3rd, 1963, in a pivotal moment of the American Civil Rights Movement, authorities in Birmingham, Alabama used high-pressure fire hoses and police dogs against the peaceful protesters, many of them children. The harrowing images broadcast globally shifted public opinion and led to the eventual passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. We now move on to May 4th. On May 4th, on May 4th, 1979, following the previous day's election win, Margaret Thatcher officially became the first female Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Her 11-year tenure remains one of the most transformative and debated periods in modern British history. We now move on to May 5th. On May 5th, 1821, the former French Emperor, Napoleon Bonaparte, died in exile on the remote island of St. Helena. His death marked the final end of an era that had seen him reshape the legal and political maps of Europe. We now move on to May 6th. On May 6th, 1937, the German passenger ship Hindenburg caught fire and was destroyed while attempting to dock at Lakehurst Naval Air Station in New Jersey. The tragedy, which killed 36 people, was famously captured on newsreel and radio, effectively ending the era of passenger-carrying airships. We now move on to May 7th. On May 7th, 1915, during World War I, the German U-boat torpedoed the British ocean liner Lusitania off the coast of Ireland. The ship's sank in just 18 minutes, killing 1,198 people, including 128 Americans. The tragedy turned international opinion against Germany and was a major factor in the U.S. eventually entering the war. We now move on to May 8th. On May 8th, 1945, in the most significant event in history, following the previous day's surrender of Rheims, the Allies formally accepted the unconditional surrender of Nazi Germany. Massive celebrations erupted across the globe, particularly in London and New York, marking the end of World War II in Europe. We now move on to May 9th. On May 9th, 1950, French Foreign Minister Robert Suckham presented a proposal for creating a unified Europe to make war between historic rivals not merely unthinkable, but materially impossible. This led to the creation of the European Coal and Steel Community, the precursor to the European Union. Today, May 9th is celebrated as Europe Day. And finally, May 10th. On May 10th, 1940, on the same day that Nazi Germany invaded Belgium and France and in the Netherlands, Winston Churchill was appointed Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. He replaced Neville Chamberlain and famously promised blood, toil, tears, and sweat in the fight against the Axis powers. That's all I got for this week. I will bring you guys more historical facts soon, but until then, see you guys next time, and God bless America.